Oh, we got it.
Good morning and welcome to the CADclass podcast. I'm Josh,
I'm Jake.
and each week we talk things, do things. I want
A
to
little
change
bit
this up
CAD, a
every
little bit
time.
3D printing, a little
We
bit
talk CAD,
CNC.
3D printing, Fusion 360, what's coming next. And I want to start off with a big Happy New Year, everybody.
Yeah.
Happy New Year. I'm feeling
As
I'm feeling
always, I
really
slept through
rejuvenated.
mine.
Yeah. I did stay up, but I stayed up at home and I felt like I had a really nice low key, exactly what I wanted
Oh, no,
New Year's Eve.
I've done this for like 5 years now. I'm like, it's 10 o'clock. I've partied. I'm fairly drunk. I'm going to sleep. Like, makes no difference. That
So,
actually, no, the good thing is there used to be a pub not too far from where I lived called the Old Ship, which is an English pub. It doesn't exist anymore. But every New Year's Eve, they celebrate the time zones of each New Year's celebration. So at 4 p.m., they celebrate England's New Year's, and and everyone's drinking, and then bagpipers come out, and it's fantastic. It's great. But before then, literally every single hour, they're like, "Yay!" And then someone's just like, "Egypt," and we're like, "Okay, yay!" And it's great.
woo,
It's like every hour on the dot, someone's yelling, "Yeah!" and then it's drinking.
that's amazing. So
And now that no longer exists, which is such a
Happy
shame.
New Year. I'm gonna just shout out everybody in the chat that I see. So Happy New Year, Joe Stree, Marion, Cornelia, Spitfire, which I think is Richard, Ogre, PC Van Vliet, Sam. Did I miss
It's so
anybody
nice to
in
have everyone
here?
here.
It's Marion. We already said.
One
Marion, you
lovely,
asked a
lovely first
question.
podcast of the
We
new
will get to
year.
your question in just a moment, Marion.
We will.
But before that, we wanted to talk about some kind of wins that we had in 2023.
We
And
did. Last year was pretty
then,
big, and we're planning on this year being even bigger. Very, very excited for that.
by the
But
way,
yeah, we
thanks
just
to
want to do.
you all for coming. Oh, we
Yeah,
have Geek Toy Box, Azel Phoenix. This is awesome. Awesome.
it's
John,
fantastic.
a Yurdo fan. Cadence. Wow, this is
How's it going, everyone?
popping off. Happy New Year. It is so awesome to be here with you all. It's hard to believe this is what podcast number, I have number 21 in the
Number
title. I
21.
I might have screwed those numbers up. This could be
No, I'm pretty sure it's
22,
21. We've been
could
doing
be
this for
20.
5 months now.
We've been doing this for a while, so it's nice to have you all each week. But big wins, Jake. We talked just before we got on here. We want to talk a little bit about the wins that we had, celebrate some of the success that not only we had, but really you all had, because us succeeding is hopefully also you succeeding. So big wins for 2023, Jake. What were they?
I mean, publishing a book was fantastic. It was
We published
so
our
much
book.
fun.
Not, and I would
Very
say not just publishing the book, but people actually read it and use it, and and like, because you never know. Like we press the go button and we're like, we're putting this out into the world, and like maybe people hate it. What if they hate it? That would be terrible.
I mean, we worked through it for too long for it not to be okay. But
I
it is
know.
essentially textbooks, and people have been so unbelievably nice about it. So
So
thank you,
kind.
everyone, to
Yeah.
the massive community. Everyone has been so lovely about it.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
And just a reminder to everybody on here, we do give that book away for free.
Oh
And
yeah.
we're gonna double down in 2024. We want to give away more free copies. We want people to
Hmm.
access this information. We want it to be out into the world. So if you know somebody who's, maybe they can't quite afford a book, they can't quite afford an online course, like definitely share the book with
Or a
them.
teacher for an
They'd love
entire
it.
classroom. That
A
gets expensive
teacher, a
quick.
class full of
And
students, and I know from my hometown, Ohio, there's a teacher there that's using our book in his classroom, and
that's
he was
awesome.
raving about it on Twitter. I saw it the other day. It's like, oh yeah, if my kids, and he's teaching middle schoolers, if my middle school kids can do it,
That's
you can do
awesome.
it too. So,
I love to
uh,
hear that.
the book, I would say, I think that was the biggest win of 2023. That was
Super
quite the
stoked about it.
feat,
Yeah.
and we're gonna do more. The second thing was we actually made our very first online course sale in January of 2023.
Yeah,
That was a
that was the most
massive
ridiculous
win.
thing ever. So,
Yeah.
so at the beginning of the year, I was just going on. Oh, I can't remember what website it was, but it was like, oh, different events and different groups going around local to you, and they had a 3D printing meetup, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is great! It'd be so much fun to go to. So I grabbed a couple of things that I printed, went off, and it was a packed room, totally packed. I was like, this is awesome. This is gonna be so cool. And then as soon as he said, "All right, and now you guys can mingle," half the people left. I'm like, "Yeah, this is my crowd." And then the next meeting, I was like, all right, let's go. Let's have some more fun. And there's a couple less people. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And then they stopped doing it afterwards, which is such a shame because it was so much fun. So I would love to do some more 3D printing in-person meetups because they're just a ton of fun.
They are totally cool. Yeah. And actually, I went to a 3D, not even a 3D printing meetup. I went to a meetup, the NorCal Makers Guild, and one guy brought his little fidget toy, which is the planetary gear fidget toy that we actually ended up printing
Yes.
hundreds of and just giving away for free. And it was all as a result of him like pulling out some 3D prints and everybody looking at this one and going, "Hang on a minute, what is that? I need to play with that. That is interesting."
So we have these little planetary gearbox fidget spinners. They always give away at different events that we do. We print them in 20 different colors, put them in like a massive fish bowl, and it's like, yeah, grab as many as you want. But the nice thing is that like as you just watching people go around, you're just hearing of like everyone just making this spinning sound everywhere you
and
go.
then
It's
people
hysterical.
running over to our booth like, hey, what is this thing? What do you have
Can I
over
get a
here?
green one?
So
Can I get a
I
pink
mean, our
one?
goal with that was to kind of go micro viral. It was like, what if we could have
Which is the
everybody,
silliest term ever.
it's basically, we're masochists. No, not masochists. We're what's the word I'm looking for? Everybody, all the attention on us. Not masochists, but we need
Chauvinist. Nepotist.
whatever. So big win. So we wrote the book. Amazing. We had our very first online class sale. Man, I can't. It's indescribable the feeling when you've created something and you put it out into the world, and then people decide to spend their hard-earned cash on what you've done, and it happens randomly, sometimes in the middle of the night. I don't know about you, but I still have an exhibitionist. I don't know about
There
you,
we
but
go.
I still haven't gotten used to that feel. It's like wild to me that's
Like
a thing.
I can feel comfortable with people like
Attention horse.
yeah
And
in like the
narcissist.
USA
Yeah, there we
getting
go.
it. Yeah,
We're
there we
narcissists,
are.
we need all
Well,
of it, bring it
to be
on.
fair, we do have a camera on our face, so you
Yeah,
need a little bit of that. Just like
totally.
I recognize people in the USA getting it, and that's something I can get a hold of. But we have like a full map on our end, and we can see people all around the planet that are getting this book and using it. And it is very wild. It is
It's
very, very
wild.
strange.
Yeah, one of
We
my
have
favorite
people
things to
in
do.
not every country in the planet so far, but over half of all the countries, which
Oh,
is
yeah,
ridiculous.
probably 75%. I would say Africa is probably the sparsest, but one of my favorite things to do is I can actually
Not
see people.
Antarctica.
I don't think we have anybody from Antarctica. Do we? I don't know. I have to
I
look.
don't know.
But we might. There's some
That
research.
is one of my goals. I do want to get to the South Pole. My uncle who works in the wool trade. He lives in oh gosh, Tierra del Fuego, which is like right at the southern tip of Chile,
I got to
like a
get down to
stone's throw away
Patagonia.
from
Got to get
Antarctica. And
down
he's
to
like,
got
yeah.
to get down to Patagonia. I have to. I
He's,
have to.
he's like, yeah, come over whenever you want.
Yeah,
I mean,
that would be
you were going to
amazing.
do a research. You were going to spend months in the South Pole,
Yeah,
but at the last minute chickened out.
I didn't chicken out. I applied for the research
I
position.
would
I
chicken
didn't
out.
get it. I didn't get it.
Oh,
I think is what happened. I was gonna do a lot of things. That's the problem with life. I was gonna ride my bike across America. I was gonna, I have all these I was gonna. But
I have that sentiment. I can't even. I think it was Adam Savage's book. Every tool is a hammer, and he had this one phrase in that's always really stuck with me. It's that everyone dies with a list.
hmm,
Like there's not a single human being that completes everything they ever wanted to do, watched every movie, read every book, saw every play that they ever wanted to do, and then as soon as they're done, died exactly afterwards. Everyone has got some things to do, and that's a little bit more comforting.
totally.
Yeah.
I would say everyone interesting. Some people, it seems there's no hobbies, there's nothing. It's like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? What are you doing?
I have met
Everybody in
people.
this chat,
I've met
everybody in this
multiple
chat
people.
dies with a list because
Yeah.
doing things is
Because
fun.
we actually like to do stuff
Right.
and make stuff and create
Right.
things.
Imagine. The last thing,
Anyway.
the last
Oh,
win I think that and please, I would like to see in the chat, share your big win of 2023. What is the thing
yeah.
that you were super excited that you've done, you started, you began your quest, whatever it happens to be. Share
And
your
if
big
it's
win of
makery,
2023.
you get a bonus point.
If it's yeah, which matters a lot. You can add those
Yeah.
bonus points up and you can buy nothing with them at all. um,
Ah,
share your big win of 2023. Our last, the last big win that I think we wanted to mention, although it is, I feel like we should say Cadence is in here. One of the other big
yeah.
wins, I'm going to say two. One of the other big wins is getting the programs the at Mosaic, the Museum of Science and Curiosity here in Sacramento, launched.
Mhm.
So the windmill program, which is really the intro to making, which is how to use a laser, how to use 3D printers, all these, how to use soldering
How to
irons, and then
CAD,
how
how
to
to
put it all
design
together,
things.
how to design things in CAD. That program is launched and off the ground and absolutely awesome. Thanks to Cadence, who's in this chat. Um, the the build and launch rockets, so 3D printed rockets that we launch with that pressurized air that are way more fun. That you get giddy when you launch because they go
Why
so
is it
high.
so much fun? I
It's so
love
much fun.
3D printed
That
rockets.
program is live, so that's the intro to 3D printing, teaching them all about how to make their custom designs in CAD and all that good stuff. And then we're working
If
on the
any of you guys
third
ever come
one.
to Sacramento, please check out that museum. It is
Yes, it
fantastic.
is so awesome.
If you have a chance to go into the planetarium, it's lovely.
Definitely, definitely, definitely.
I'm
And
seeing
then the
some
last
rad things.
program
Oh,
is the soccer bots. So the soccer
yeah.
robots with the remote control. Man, Cadence. Actually, Cadence,
The
if you're
kids build
still
themselves,
here,
which is
can you
phenomenal.
share a photo in the I Made a Thing channel of Discord of that the robots that we're making to compete? I just love those things so much.
That's
Um,
the coolest thing in the world.
so cool. So cool. So that's a big win. And then the final big win, and then we're going to read off some of your big wins, and then we're going to do the CAD thing, is we won the Sacramento Innovation Grant. What are you laughing
Yeah,
at over
yeah,
there?
we did. Yeah, we did.
We won the Sacramento Innovation Grant. We're still trying
Which
to
is
get that
fantastic.
started, but we're going to be giving away 3D printers and all of our
Laptops,
courses, as well as
courses,
mentorship and
information,
training. And we're going to try to turn Sacramento into a regional innovation hub. One
which is
one
just
little 3D printer
so
at a time,
fantastic, exciting.
which is so exciting. So exciting. All right. I live in Sacramento. Oh, check that out. Spitfire's here. I didn't realize
Yay.
that. That is
That's pretty
awesome.
cool.
All right, so big wins. Let's see here. For me, let's see. Where do we start? Let's get on this. Okay, so you can building the Voron. So PC Van Vliet says building the Voron and diving deeper into 3D printing and CAD design. Heck yeah.
Building a Voron
Heck
is a
yeah.
serious accomplishment. For anyone that doesn't know, in the world of 3D printing, most 3D printers are built by companies that then sometimes you assemble or they're pre-built. Voron was a company that came out, I think, Canada. I could be wrong on that. And we're going to make the fastest 3D printer you can possibly even think of, where everything is just ramped up to the maximum. And they may have got on startup, I'm not sure, but just an insane 3D printer. But it wasn't a company. You just had to buy all the pieces yourself, 3D print the parts, assemble it yourself, and essentially make it from the ground up. So anyone who made a Voron, hats off to you. That's amazing.
Amazing.
I genuinely don't think I'd be able to do it without smashing it into pieces.
Yes, you would. Get out of here, dude.
But
What are you even
but
talking
we
about
have
over
seen
there?
quite a few Voron printers going off at different
We have.
conventions that we go to.
I
Oh my
love watching that.
god,
It's so much fun.
you it's a blur. It's a human blur. But I like seeing the head move and it's just a blur. That's amazing. But what really makes it even more like mind blowing at how fast it is just seeing the spool. Like you can see it spin in real time instead of just slowly a little bit at a time on a normal printer.
Yeah,
This thing is spinning. It's
it's crazy.
ridiculously fast.
It is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Geek Toy Box, or no, so Ogre says retired. Congratulations on retiring, Ogre. That is
Congratulations. That's
amazing.
fantastic.
Now you have more work than ever.
Yeah.
From what I hear, some retirees, it gets busier. Geek Toy Box says, I'm happy to have gotten a huge 3DP showing at Maker Faire OC. Was like a mini rep
That's
rap
awesome.
festival. That is super, super cool. Glad to hear that.
We had
John,
I had to miss that because we were in Sacramento, unfortunately.
yeah, next year.
But I will be going to it this year.
Johnny Yurtofan says creating a cable organizer with help from Josh and Jake. That is so freaking. That's
Yeah.
the big win. Cornelia says started with 3D printing and afterwards started with Fusion 360. Big win. Awesome.
Love to see it.
Geek Toy Box started off the year with walking my friend through modeling a part in Fusion. Just sent him the ebook link. Great. Spitfire lives in Sacramento. Sam says, honestly, this class, after making that crazy gear not yet produced, I feel like I can make any part for my business. That's amazing.
I believe that, Sam.
I
Sam,
also
for anyone
believe
that
that.
doesn't know, makes recreates a ton of car parts that are no longer in production. That information is lost to history, and Sam literally reverse engineers it, CADs it, 3D prints it, and sells it.
Well, I think
And
he's
as far as I
gonna.
know, kills it.
Yeah, and I think he just made the most complicated part, and he's gonna get that actually
Yeah,
manufactured out of metal,
that's gonna be
maybe
awesome.
3D printed, probably traditional. I don't know. I don't know how he's gonna do. He'll tell us in the chat here. Geek 12. What else? We have big win for Spitfire was decided to buy a Bamboo P1P to replace my aging Robo 3D R1. That is awesome.
Robo 3D. I haven't heard that in a long time. Wow.
Cadence coming
God.
in with being able to make my ideas in Fusion, learning how to quilt, and seriously taking up embroidery for the first time in years. I had no idea, Jake. I don't know if you know this. Do you realize how gigantic the quilting industry is?
No, I don't. I've always assumed because I see quilting stores like in the corner of like shopping centers, and I've been fairly convinced for a long time that it's just a laundering money laundering because I never see a single person in there. I
Dude.
never see the lights on. I've seen probably 5 in my entire life, and I'm like, there's something sketchy going on. It's the same thing
No.
with like mattress firms where people are pretty confirmed that like it's not a real company, it's just money laundering because nobody's ever in there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
is quilting big? I don't know. I have no idea.
Gigantic. It's a like a I want to say it's like a $500 billion a year industry or something.
No,
Yeah, it's like maybe I'm
get
completely
out of
off
here.
on in terms of scale, but it's way bigger than you think. There was one guy that
God,
has
that's
basically
ridiculous.
converted an entire town into a quilting town. He bought up
Oh
all
my
the
god.
buildings and he turned it into a tourist hub, and it's crazy. Um,
Good
let's
lord.
see.
That's so silly. That is so silly of them. Okay. I mean, if people like quilting, that's great. Good for
Uh,
them. I'm happy.
last thing before we get a little bit started here, wanted to read off some stats for you all. What did it look like for CADclass in 2023? So we
Let's do this
had.
quick because
Let's
we're
go quick.
obviously
Then we'll get into
very
it. We got
obsessed with
16
ourselves.
people here. Yeah, we care a lot about ourselves. So we had 770 people enroll online in a course, a free trial, something like that in our online classes. 724 people in our Discord. 1,719 books sold on Amazon. That does not include our other distribution partner, which I didn't add up before this. 440 ebook
Very lazy,
donations.
Josh.
440 ebook donations, 2,183 book downloads. If you add all those up, 4,342 books interacted with in some way that we know of. That we know
That's
of.
right.
So I say that we know of because people can share the drive directly. You don't actually have to go to the download page. There's all kinds of ways to kind of get access to it other than that. So
For everyone that doesn't
4,342
know,
people
the book that we have, we completely give away for free.
for free.
That's always been
Yeah.
a bit of the philosophy of our company, is to just give away as much stuff as humanly possible.
Sam
And
says 16 people and one like tisk tisk.
yeah.
Hit that.
That's fine.
Smash that like
And
button. Ugh.
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 And the idea of like giving this away as much as possible, I of all the people that we've told to, every single person has said that's a terrible business plan.
Terrible idea. Yeah. They're like, why would
Terrible
you do
idea.
that? Yeah. And that's
And it has
that,
been
that was a big
nothing
win
but
for us.
the best thing possible.
Mhm.
We've gotten so much more activity and so much more information coming in where people go, oh, I would change this, I would tweak this here, this is a cool idea. And it has led to a much faster progression. And it's
Yeah.
only going to make, the book and the course better and better and better over the years on purpose because we're giving stuff away. So
Definitely.
to all the
Yeah.
naysayers,
Give it a shot. And
Yeah,
I
give it a
saw
shot.
after us, there was a couple books launched that I saw after us that they also did the free download thing. So
Oh, really?
we didn't invent that. Plenty of people have
Well,
done that
no.
before us, but it does look like it's gaining a little bit of traction, and we hope to be able to continue to
Good.
give books away. Right? If people
Mhm.
if people are actually continuing to buy the book, and when you can make the donation, and if not, just at least interact with what we have. Like I do think it'll grow the community. The last thing that we have here is 782 subscribers on YouTube, and that'll be a big goal of ours
That's awesome.
to boost that up
Yeah.
into the hopefully tens of thousands by the end of this year as
Well up
Jake
into the
gets
800s by next year.
as Jake learns what he's
Fingers
doing,
crossed. Yeah.
All right. Well,
Um,
that is enough about us. We're here to talk about you. And we had a question. I think we should start off with the question that we had in the chat right
I
at the beginning.
completely agree. Let me just go to the
What
top. Where
do you
was
think
it?
about that?
This is from Marion.
I'm gonna. Yep, there we go.
They were saying when doing a 2D Pocket toolpath, sometimes the path is in order that I click on the features, but most of the times it's not. It just seems to be random. There must be a way to fix this, but I couldn't figure it out. So a 2D Pocket toolpath. Let me go ahead and open up Fusion. I'm just going to bring up. Let's do the guitar project really quick. Josh, do you have any information on this? Because you're more of a CNC guy than me.
What information on what? Oh, when doing a 2D Pocket toolpath, I was looking at other stuff. Sometimes the path is in the order I click on the features, but most times it's not. Seems to be just random. Oh, there is a way to fix it.
Because I don't know this off the top of my head.
Don't even have Fusion open. It's preserve path.
I'm gonna.
There's a preserve path check mark. I'm not up yet, so let's come back to this question, and I'm going to try to.
I have Fusion open. I'm gonna go ahead and launch that right now. Oops. So why don't you go ahead and walk me through this, Josh?
Okay, so I don't remember.
So we do have a 2D Pocket right here. This is where this is our electric guitar project in week 8. This is where we're cutting out the neck slot and then the pickup cutouts as well. So I'm going to go ahead and edit this. So in the... Where is it? Oh. Which section is this for? So that's for that cutout. That's for that cutout. Yes, that's what I'm looking for. So the safe distance, that's fine.
It's called preserve order. It's called preserve order. See if you can do the search function. I don't exactly. It's been a couple months since I did it. Use the search function. See if you can find preserve order in that.
No, this is only going to search up little tools inside it.
It's one. It's in the. So if you go to the tool path, it should be. If you edit the tool path, yeah, it should be in that drop down menu on the right over there. I need to open up my screen and have a look at it. I know what it's called. I just don't remember where it is, and it's called preserve order.
Preserve order. Well, there you go, Marion. That's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I can't find it. I'm not a CNC person. Josh is a professor of CNCing, and I'm just some guy. So unfortunately, I don't have a ton of information on this.
Yeah,
I really. Oh, here we go. Aha! Preserve order right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is under the passes tab. Under passes, preserve order right there. So if I hover over it, it'll give me a little preview. When selected, the chains/features are machined in the order they were selected. When unselected, the program optimizes the cut order. Yeah, I have found that when I let Fusion take over the preserved order with CNCing, usually when it's doing things like holes, where it's literally just making the shortest path possible. For example, drilling out all these holes. It does a really good job at this because it's fairly simple. It's just saying what is the shortest distance between all of them. But doing slightly more complex jobs, that can be a little bit less efficient. Not necessarily in this operation. You can see it's obviously moving from this top one to the middle to the bottom. But when it's going between the previous tool operation to the next one and then the one after that, it can be slightly more or slightly less efficient than you really want it to be. So hopefully that will help you out a little bit, Marion.
There we go. Where'd the chat go? Oh, there we go. An error occurred. Okay. Weird. Hope you all are still here. That was bizarre.
The other thing that we want to do. So I have not been here for about a week. I actually just got back very late last night from spending 4 days in Colorado with my significant other. And yeah, so I have literally not been looking at the Discord at all. I've been trying to take a little break from work. So do you want to jump on Discord and we'll kind of check out some of the cool stuff that you guys are making?
Yeah, we have Johnny Yurta fan said, I left a question in the general chat. I'm stuck on the paperclip.
Stuck on the paperclip. Ooh, that is for the sweep. That would be in the Mobius strip, I believe. Fantastic.
Need help with the paperclip challenge? I guess I do not understand how the sweep tool actually works.
How the sweep tool actually works. So I may as well make a paperclip. So let's make something really, really simple. I'm going to make I guess, a simple shape. I'll do a angle that goes.
Do the carabiner shape. We've been talking about carabiners. Do a carabiner shape.
Oh, okay. All right. So the idea is that with a sweep, you essentially have two different parts. You have the profile and you have the path. A profile is just an enclosed shape, whether it's a square, rectangle, polygon, text, circle, anything like that. And a path is just a line or a curve or a completed curve where you are taking that profile and sending it along the path. A really, really simple way to visualize it is if you have a circle going around a larger circle, you'll make a donut. That's the very simple way to think about it. If we wanted to make something like a carabiner shape, then I can make the profile or the path first. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to make the path first. I actually don't know off the top of my head what a carabiner looks like. Josh is a mountain climber, and I'm not.
Yeah,
But that's
about
about right. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just an ice cream cone.
So one of the really important things with sweeping is that it doesn't really like sharp corners. It much prefers curves and tangencies. So I think this is a little bit more obvious here. There is a corner right there where the line and the arc touch into each other. So I can go into my constraints, go into the tangent, and then just select both these lines. That is now adding in that tangency icon. And so it means that this line is going directly into the curve nice and smoothly without any corner coming back out. And then I can center all of these if I want to. But really the most important thing is that the center of your profile has to line up with basically anywhere on the path that you want. So I'm just going to make a point right on the bottom that is at the origin. And then I'll make a circle where the center is at the origin as well. So I'm just going to go up and do just a little bit of house cleaning, I suppose. So I'll make both of these horizontal to the origin. I'll make a little point, and I'm looking for the midpoint, little triangle icon. There we go. And then we can make that point totally coincident with the origin. I actually don't really care about scale too much. That looks about right as far as carabiners go.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. So as far as a sweep or as far as a path, obviously you would want this to be fully defined. We're just doing a quick example, so it's not a problem. But the reason that I wanted the bottom point to be on the origin, because it makes it really easy for me to make a profile, in this case, just a little circle, where the center lines up with this path. It makes a really easy clickable point. Remember, the origin is the only place in the CAD universe that's actually locked down. That is the center of the universe. All right, so now I've got two different profiles. So if I go into create, sweep, it's essentially asking for just two things. This dialog box looks more complicated than it really needs to be. But the profile, that's going to be this circle, and then the path is going to be this profile right here. Really quick, one thing that you may notice, when I move my mouse over it, it's actually highlighting the entire thing, even though this path is made up of two arcs and two lines. That's because I have chain selection enabled. If I uncheck that, then it's only going to be highlighting one thing at a time. And if I want to continue that, I then have to go around and click all the pieces, which kind of sucks. So instead, I can enable chain selection, and anything that is tangent, so the arcs and the lines that are all tangent to each other, it means it selects the entire thing. There we go. So this is the sweep. If you actually have the point not on the line, it may throw up an error, which is always a little bit confusing, considering this is a fairly beginner tool, and that's when most people slip up. We may as well go through this. The distance on there is weirdly enough not a numerical distance. It's not in millimeters, but it's actually kind of a percentage. So you can say the distance is number 1, which means it is 100% followed around the path. If I move this along, you can see it's kind of building up towards the percentage. So if I go almost halfway, you can see it's at 0.5 out of 1. So by bringing this all the way around, it's then going to finish off at 100 and then go back to 0. So if I put that back to 1, this will make a fully enclosed profile. If I mess around with the taper angle, that means that it's going to start off at this large circle and then get skinnier and skinnier. So if I turn this at 5 degrees, oh, it actually becomes so tiny. Let's try 1 degree. Actually, maybe -1 degree. Will that make it larger? Yeah. So this is becoming smaller and smaller and smaller until it is literally an infinitesimal point right there. So obviously, not what we're really looking for. A twist angle, I don't think it's actually going to do much, because if you rotate a circle, it's still a circle. So if I make this 180 degrees, yeah, nothing really changes. This twist angle, this is what we do to actually get an interesting effect with the Mobius strip, which is in chapter 1. The orientation, this is whether the actual profile, the circular shape in this case, is actually following along about the path. If you change this to parallel, it looks very weird. Most of the time you get an error because this is actually going past 180 degrees. We may do a little example of that, but 99% of the time, you're just going to keep it perpendicular. And then the operation, this is set to new body because we haven't actually made any bodies yet, so it has to be a new body. There is nothing to join or cut or intersect because there is only one thing. And because we're making this under our top component, it's saying, yeah, do you want this to be a body inside the component, or do you want it to be a new component in itself? We'll leave this as new body. And when I click OK, you can now see in our browser, we now have body 1, which is our entire shape.
Beautiful.
I hope that...
And he said, I quit. I see where I went wrong. So that helped. We have another question here, which is not going to require
really quick. I actually do want to mess this up a little bit. I do want to do the really classic, or the thing that people accidentally get wrong, where they actually put the profile off to the side. I'm going to go ahead and delete this, then make a circle over here. So you can see that the circle is now no longer even going through that point right there. Let me just delete that, and then I'll remake it. Sweep. Let me turn on both my sketches. So the profile right here, path right there, this gives you, well, this does work apparently. Most of the time it does not, which is very annoying. But in this case, because we have both our sketches still turned on, we can actually move this and it will auto update. You can see it's kind of an offset, but if I move it
that's interesting.
Inside, yeah. You can see if I move it past the central point of that arc, it actually gives me a big fat error. And that's obviously wrong. So, yeah. So the idea is the best thing you can do for sweeping is to organize and make sure that you have a known point, usually the origin, where the path and the profile intersect nice and neatly. All right.
Fantastic. The next question that we have in the chat here is actually not something we're going to have to go into Fusion for, but it's something that we had talked about in the past on the pod, and it's worth reminding. So it says, Cornelia says, I worked on the phone cover, and on page 151 it says add a coincident constraint. This doesn't work for me. Think it must be add horizontal/vertical, or am I missing something wrong here? So Cornelia, the big issue that you run into with constraints is that a lot of times Fusion360 automatically applies them. So even though we try to be as precise as possible about exactly what to do, we can't predict every mouse click that people do. And so sometimes it leads to us suggesting that you add a constraint that has, for some reason,
already been there, or
it's already there, or there's something else that's actually making
or
it so
two
you're
constraints
unable
that
to
don't
add
like
that
each other.
So what we really should add probably in the next iteration of this book is some discussion about how to properly deal with constraints, because throughout the whole book, you're not always applying the exact constraints that we put. So play around with it. If it's not, in your case, if it turns out that it's not a coincident constraint and horizontal vertical works and it doesn't break anything and your sketch is now fully defined, that is totally fine.
I like it.
Shall we show off some people's stuff?
I think we should do that. Yeah, I'm sick of looking at us.
That's right. So we got Cadence to actually drop in the little designed robot. So we asked her to show that off, and
that's on I Made a Thing.
That's on I Made a Thing. Couple of things I want to talk about.
These
zoom
so
zoom in I'm so stoked. Zoom in. Yeah, exactly.
That's
So
so rad.
the bottom photo is really interesting. So I'm still stoked about this, and I know we talked to Cadence in person, but those are basically 3D printed springs, and they're so that you can
So
relieve
I
some of the
wasn't privy.
stress.
So this eases the stress. So this is essentially, this connects this top part of the remote with, as you can see, the bottom part. And
Yes.
there's obviously some kind of bulky switches on there to act as remote left and right, forward, front,
Yep.
back. Why do you need a spring mechanism there? Why wouldn't you just have like a standoff?
Standoff might work, but the problem that we were trying to solve it was that when you push this remote between both hands, and you're going to be driving this around,
Mhm.
when you push it too hard between both hands, it actually cracks the acrylic. It breaks.
Ah, yeah.
Right. So if you have
So
standoffs
this looks like
there,
it's
you don't
eighth
actually,
inch acrylic.
yeah, you don't actually
That is
have.
very, very clever.
It's so clever. So then it gives you that give, so that as you're working the remote, it's moving up and down and flexing a little bit, as opposed to just having a
That's
rigid edge
fantastic.
there. That was
I don't think a lot
such
of people realize just how fragile acrylic is in really specific circumstances, especially if you heat it up. I see a really common thing with certain people is that they'll laser cut something out of acrylic and then they'll hit it with a heat gun and let it kind of warp a little bit so they can get it, over a form and they get some nice curves in it. That's great. That totally works. Unfortunately, that ruins the structure of the acrylic and it makes it unbelievably brittle, and it makes it, I think, more brittle than glass. You can snap it with a fraction of the amount of force it takes when it's just flat. So yeah, acrylic can be a little scary. A little scary.
It's scary,
I've
he
made
says.
way too many things in acrylic where I'm like, oh, I want to put like an arc in there. I'll heat it up and then ping, and then there's shrapnel everywhere. So that's no fun.
I saw
Yeah,
I
this is
also
awesome.
saw, yeah, this is so cool. I also saw Richard Spitfire. I saw him post. He says, "My first, I made a thing. Congratulations, Richard." So if you
That's
scroll up just a
fantastic.
little bit, that right there. Do you remember the first thing you 3D printed, Jake?
I do actually.
What'd you make?
Um, it was a little coin. So Josh and I used to work at a maker space, at a big workshop, and one of the things that is kind of kind of good, kind of bad about community workspaces is that there's usually this lovely sense of camaraderie. And if you make a mess, you clean it up because you're sharing the space with everyone else. If someone was on a tool before you and they left it a mess, you would be annoyed at them. So you clean it up for the next person. It's the old camping monicum of you'll leave your place cleaner than how you found it. And we started to build up this system like, oh, okay, what if we see someone cleaning up, we'll give them a little token, a little chip, and if they get 5 or 10 of them, then they'll get a free class or something like that. And so I was working on like just making the very, very simple little coin, like a massive, like a comical, like a Super Mario kind of coin, with like a little hole in there so you could put on a little carabiner so you could collect them. And then she was like, "Oh, this is a great idea. This place is going to be so clean, and people are going to be nicer, and we can just hand these out. It's going to be great." And then told the idea to the CEO, and he said, "No." So I don't have it, but yeah,
That's cool.
I thought it was a nice idea. But this is
Uh,
my first I made a
Very
thing is
first
really
I made a
simple.
thing. That's such a huge deal. That like for me
Yes.
that was the initial like, oh my God, I can this is really magical.
Yes.
I can do anything. And that's the truth. It's like it takes you a while to learn how to do all of the other things, but it does really give you the sensation that I can do it.
It especially with 3D printing, like in the maker community, there's always the phrase of when your only tool is a hammer, every project looks like a nail, and 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 it's like, yeah, you should diversify, you should build up more skills. Not everything has to be made out of plywood if you're a woodworker. Sometimes actually making it out of plastic is just fine. Uh, but the problem with 3D printing is like, well, yeah, but you can also make anything with the 3D printer any shape you want. And so
Yeah.
it very quickly comes into the, yeah, I guess you're right, but also I'm right as well. Um, but yeah, this is fantastic. I absolutely love it.
uh
So this is going to be a PCB fit for an RC plane. That's awesome.
Super cool.
That is
Congratulations,
so rad.
Ogre. If you're still here, hopefully you are. If not, hopefully you hop back in and see. Next up is Ogre. And Ogre was also here. I hope you're still here. Check this out. Collapsing lightsaber with holster and
That's
stand.
rad.
Ho, ho, ho.
I'm gonna grab something very, very quickly
Okay.
off camera.
Okay.
So I have a bunch of this glow in the dark filament still kind of lying around, and I think a lot of people here are Lego nerds, and so I made this huge Lego hilt and glow in the dark Lego Lego lightsaber project. I'm actually going to give it to my mum for a classroom. But this is one of the things that I actually do want to make a little bit cooler because it's ever so slightly too small in my hand. So I want to make it much larger. And one of my projects is to make one of these collapsible things. So turn this bottom into like a screw cap and then turn this glow in the dark stuff into this kind of ascending trapezoid revolve shapes. So you can kind of flick it. It glows in the dark. So hopefully that's one of the projects coming down the line. But this is awesome. This is so rad.
Next up is
collapsing lightsaber with a
Connie.
stand. Oh,
And I know, how cool is that? Really nicely done.
so awesome.
And Ogre was one of our graduates.
Oh,
Awesome.
fantastic.
Awesome work. Connie, check this. These light boxes are
This
so cool.
Such a cool thing.
It makes me want one for CADclass.
Yeah.
You know,
just
awesome. Do our it's just such a nice job, Connie. And Connie is, let's see, it's amazing what all you guys construct. She's like complimenting everybody else in the chat when she posts photos of her
Connie's
stuff, which is also just so lovely. But that's amazing. Really, really cool work, Connie. And then I don't think did we have any updates from, I don't know if that was last week or not. Yeah, we talked Joe Stree's updates last week, you know.
Yeah.
So
was working on his whole mechanism, which is just ridiculously cool. I can't wait for that.
Totally.
Yeah. Just so flipping cool. Everyone, yeah. Hats off. Yeah, as you can see, haven't looked at this for a while. I'm sure you guys have questions. I will get to it, I promise. All right, so one of the things that I'm doing is slowly but surely organizing my toolbox better and better and better as much as I can, compressing things. And one of the drawers in my toolbox is just scribing. You know, anytime I do woodworking or metalworking or 3D printing or laser cutting, like making sure that things are laid out and as organized as possible is super ridiculously critical. So I've got an entire drawer of my tool case that's just full of squares and digital protractors and calipers, 12-inch calipers, long reach calipers, blah, 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 blah. And half of it, I don't know why I did this, but I used to collect / steal Sharpies. Anytime I'd see one on the table, I'm like, is anyone using this? Put it in my pocket. And so I've got tons of Sharpies. I don't need tons of Sharpies to be laid out nice and neatly. I need it to be compressed and small. And I have a ton of like mechanical pencils that I use for drafting and layout. I don't need them all nice and flat. It takes up way too much real estate. And I want to just compress it down as much as possible. So I made so I have a very, very, very simple CAD project, but the actual CAD project is not the point of the topic. It is laser focusing yourself into one design and then kind of standing back, letting it breathe. And then when you come back, you've got a much better project or a much better way to approach the project, whether it be for a 3D printing project, if you can use less material, less support, print faster, be more efficient, etc., etc., etc. So I'm just going to open up my screen very, very quickly. So the idea is that I've got a toolbox with some skinny drawers right at the top. I think a lot of people know what it is. And I was like, yeah, I'll just make 2 little hoops. This takes up significantly less room. You know, very, very simple. This is, the exact width of my tool carts or toolbox drawer. So it fits in nice and neatly, doesn't waste any space, doesn't wiggle around. It's not all that long. It's the maximum heights that I can fit in there. So I can, get as many pens and Sharpies in there as much as possible. And then I'm going to shell the bottom so it uses as little material as possible. Like all these walls are the same thickness, yada, yada, yada. And I was putting it into the slicer, and I'm like, this is going to take an hour. And it turned out it was going to take like 4 hours. I'm like, okay. And then the next morning I had to fly off to Colorado, so I didn't get time to print this. And then just after letting the project just breathe for a little second in my brain, kind of coming back to it with kind of fresh eyes and going, wow, I don't need the vast majority of this. Not only can I print it much faster and with less material, but just just better in general. So I was kind of realizing that I was going to have to print it in this orientation, the flat side going up there, and then I'd probably have some ugly sides at the bottom, but who cares? And this was just looking just bad in general. And after letting it sit for a while, I'm like, okay, well, I can print this to be the exact width of my drawer. So why the hell do I have walls on this side? It just doesn't make any sense. It adds up a huge amount of printing time and it's completely unnecessary. And also, why am I printing it, flat like this in this view? It's completely unnecessary. Why don't I just print it standing upwards? Because I can just print it this orientation and it prints way faster. It's ridiculous amount of time-saving operations where I can just have these 2 hoops in there, build it up vertical, and I'm done. So I think that's one of the lessons that people really need to kind of learn when they're getting into design in CAD, especially. Where if you think you have a kick-ass design, just let it breathe. Just let it kind of mull around in your head for a day, or at least sleep it through, and then you'll come back probably with a much better design. I what do you have any insight on that, Josh? On
I
that
100% agree with
philosophy?
you. Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely how my brain works. It's like it's difficult to make some design changes when you're so close to the project. I think giving things time, stepping away. I often have my best ideas when I'm not trying to think about ideas. I think is a good analogy,
Yeah.
right? And
Mhm.
it's often it's like almost totally random. There's a reason why I think when you're standing in the shower, there's a common trope that when you stand in the shower, that's when all the ideas
Yeah.
come. You've given yourself time away from basically all of the distractions, all of the thinking. It's that same idea. I do that all the time. I do that all the time.
I actually I need to get a new one. I had this product called Shower Notes, where it's like wax paper that you could write on, but it didn't get wet. And it was on like 2 little suction cups. Put it on the wall of your shower, and then anytime you have an idea, you can just sketch it there. Um, I came up with so many good ideas, and then I just ran out of paper, and so I will be getting some. Um,
PC Van Vliet said, could strength be a consideration to print it in the other direction?
Strength for this orientation, technically yes. It would be slightly stronger in this orientation if I just do a little cross section. If I pull this back, um, if you can see this orientation, obviously, if it's building up layer by layer, then this bottom section is really wide. But as you get to this section right there, it's incredibly small, which means it's very easy to break it. But if you print it vertically, then you've got a huge amount of surface area all along there, so it's much stronger. But the other consideration that I think is even more important is that this is a tray that's meant to hold pencils, and so it's not really meant. It doesn't need to be ridiculously strong. It's a That's when you kind of get into the weeds. It's a little bit unnecessary, but good thinking either way. As you can see with my design, I was putting like fillets on it, and I'm like, why? This doesn't need to happen. This is completely unnecessary. Yeah, that just a little bit of an insight in that. So this is something that I'll be changing very, very, very soon. Yeah. Anyway, what else do we have, Josh?
I was looking through the
Got about 10
Discord because
minutes to
we,
go.
we have about 6 pages of stuff on the Discord, and I'm just trying to
Oh,
scan through some of it, which is so cool, by the way. So, so cool. But I'm just trying to scan through some of it and see if there isn't a question or two we can answer here really quickly. We talked Richard. We got helical gear. Richard tried the helical gear the first time. If you want to pull that up, actually, go to the challenges section and then pull up the helical gear in the challenges section.
the challenge is Spitfire.
Yeah, so that's he's here in the chat, or at least he was for a bit. It looks like that is that looking like it's getting skinnier and skinnier as it goes down to the bottom? Or is that just the perspective that we have?
I think that's just the perspective.
Okay.
Let me see what he said. My attempt at the helical gear wasn't sure how to make the sweep to the other face, So just estimated, but assume there is a better way. There is a better way. We have talked about it on the podcast before, but one of the ways to do this, and I won't give it all away, but what you want to do is a very similar process that we did in the Mobius strip just 1 week before. You don't need to make it. Don't overcomplicate it. Is one of the things I'll give you there. You want to merge what you learned with the gear project with the Mobius strip project. That's what I'll give you. And then
Nice.
Ghost Pepper right here. After a long absence, back to the book. I kept using the loft tool and offset planes, but Spitfire rode above. It's not nearly enough to get subtlety for complexity. Good lord, that's a lot of sketches. And then, God, that just
Wow.
looks fantastic. That
Wow.
looks so good.
Wow.
Oh, that looks great. That looks super, super good, guys. I don't know if you hear Ghost Pepper. That's rad. I really dig the artistic framing of this. Not too shabby, but that's pretty rad.
Ix got Ix on the let's see, robotic hand. Put a thumb on there. Got it working. So that's very cool.
That is oh yes, I actually love when people do this. It is not an easy thing to do. Oh, he's actually got multi joints on there. Can you see this, Josh?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
That is so rad.
So that's a chapter 10. That's the last project in chapter 10.
Yeah, that's
chapter
the
10
challenge.
slash video 10, whatever one that you're working through here.
Yeah. I am I'm getting more and more into robotics. When we were in Colorado, we were just going through like one of the old malls that my fiance used to go to as a kid. They had a Tesla store, and I was just walking by, and I was like, yeah, whatever. A Tesla store in a mall is not too exciting. And then inside, I saw they had the Tesla robot that was there. Oh my god, it's real! Ran over to it. I didn't take any pictures of it because the guy said no pictures. Fine. But I was looking at it, and it looks so flipping cool.
Yeah.
And then, but my fiance is, I don't know if it's a full-fledged phobia, but she's certainly freaked out by humanoid robots. Like, I'll show her some like the really cool robotic arms that people are doing, and she's like, "Oh, that's super rad." And then I'll show her like somebody making like eye mechanisms and a full face mechanism, and she's like, "Nope." And so I was like, "Oh, come and check it out." She's like, "I'm gonna go wait over here by the Subaru. You can go in there and check that out." And it was so rad. It looks so fantastic, and I'm kind of wanting to dive in a little bit deeper into like literally list out all the different movements and mechanisms, at least in like the human arm. Like obviously there's individual fingers, but then like literally every single movement that you can do, that I need to talk to my fiance who's an anatomist, because that'd just be awesome to do. But I kind of want to make it like a little uncanny valley where it's like 10% larger in real life. So it's like, why does this look so creepy?
We've got
that's one of the things later down the line.
It's totally cool. We've got another of Connie's designs here in the American football. So she did the challenge for the American football, and I actually think it turned out really rad. So pull up the American football project page right there. Check that bottom one out. Check that. Zoom in on that.
Oh my god, that's is
really
so
cool. So that was using some of the texturing and patterns and stuff that we show you how to do in chapter 5. And that turned out really rad.
That is so fantastic. Oh my gosh. There's definitely other programs that are, I think SketchUp, where it's like purpose built for architecture and layout of buildings. But if you want specificity, Fusion's kind of the way to go. But this looks so flipping cool, Connie.
Super cool. Super cool.
That's awesome.
Nice work. We did have a question. We had somebody mess up the knurls on the geocache hide.
Yes.
Why don't we talk about that one briefly? So what would cause, for some reason I couldn't get the knurling to go all the way around the cap. I went back and forth and followed this up again, but it would only wrap around the top. And then he did it with another cylinder.
Weird.
Just a cylinder. And
That's really weird. So it looks like he's getting the cross on one orientation. So obviously I guess the top down to the left is the original, and then the mirror is the little preview. So he's got all of the original cuts. Oh, he's doing. Okay, so he's doing. It looks like it's a cut and then a pattern and then a mirror, which should be fine, but it's only cutting through a little bit of it. Interesting to say the least. Yep, that all looks perfectly fine for the first cut. Very interesting. I don't know. If you're on here, Ong, I would love for you to send me the file on here. That, in fact, that is what I will comment in a little bit. What it looks like is that it's only cutting in just one small amount. They may be patterning instead of selecting the features of the actual mirrored mechanism, they may just be clicking the faces on here. Because you can see it's only cutting one bit of it all the way around instead of the entire cross mechanism. That's the only thing that I can think of. But that is very strange. All right. That is for me to get down to the bottom of it. Very funky. Weird. Yeah, I will take a look at that a little bit later. What else do we have? Connie, awesome as ever.
Yeah, Connie just made a ton of progress. Looks like some people really did jam through a lot of the program during break, so that was cool to see.
We did have someone for the definitely not a Lego brick for legal purposes. That actually printed out the definitely not a Lego brick, and then it fit perfectly in their kid's setup, which I think is rad because most people, when they print this out, because plastic injection molding and 3D printing and different things, it actually doesn't fit perfectly, but the draft angle definitely worked. One thing that I don't think a lot of people realize, one of the differences between 3D printing and plastic injection molding is when you are extruding a plastic out of a 3D printer, it is cooled immediately. So basically, as soon as it's extruded and laid down, it's the final shape, and you're calibrating your machine based on the final dimensions. And that's how you are designing things, how you're calibrating your E steps and X, Y, Z steps to make the final thing exactly the right size. With plastic injection molding, you have to account for shrinkage. When the plastic is injected, molten, then cools down, it shrinks depending on the plastic about 2.5% to 3%. And so when you're designing something for plastic injection molding, you actually have to anticipate in which direction it's being pulled in, and then expand that so that when it cools down, it does actually fit. So if we anticipate that the 3D printed one is actually 2% larger than the final product, which is obviously shrunk, then that actually makes a ton of sense that they wouldn't fit very well. But I do want to see, if anyone has actually 3D printed that, I would like you to go back into your slicer, scale it down 2 or 3%, reprint it out, and then see if it fits on Lego. See if my theory is correct. Because that's what I bet is happening for a lot of people. That's maybe something that we put in the book. Anyway.
Yeah.
I think that's wrapping up for the time.
We are going to wrap it up right there. Again, Happy New Year, everybody. It's so nice to be back and saying hello and brand new 2024. Hope it's fruitful and fun and adventurous for all of you. And this has been the CADclass podcast. I'm Josh.
I'm Jake.
And we'll see you next Wednesday.
See you guys. Have fun.